Part 34. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 331. And because the bones can be stewed several times, everyone can drink bone soup several times to supplement nutrition. Therefore, after finishing the soup, there is no need to remind people. Some people fetch water and pour it into the pot, add firewood to the stove, and continue to stew. Prepare to queue up and share soup again in the evening. So, everyone happily walked home carrying their portion of meat and soup. This situation is limited to adults and sensible children, because many children can't help but be greedy and worry that they won't be able to eat when they take it home, so they eat the meat they are given on the spot, leaving their mouths full of oil. With smiles all over his face. The younger one said, "This is meat, it's so delicious. I wish I had meat to eat every day. Look at how beautiful you are. If you can eat a bite of meat, it means that your ancestors have been blessed for 8 generations and want to eat it every day. I haven't tasted meat for several years. The party secretary is really a good man. He didn't sell the pigs, but killed them for them to eat. If anyone told me, other people in the production brigade would definitely be envious. The Lu family can eat meat several times a month, so they take their portion of meat home and pour it together. A big bowl full of hodgepodge, the soup has solidified." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "It can be a big dish in the evening. Master, Aunt, when it gets dark, you and Dad will come over quietly, and we will have New Year's Eve dinner together." "Okay. Okay," Aunt Su was not polite to her. Father Lu sighed, "The whole family is here, but Ajiang is missing. The mother is worried when her son travels thousands of miles, so why not be the same for the father?" When Lu Jiang was mentioned, Feng Qingxiu lowered her head and looked at her tall belly. She also missed her husband, but he had a sacred duty. She couldn't reveal her thoughts in front of others, as it would make people think that she was interested in him. Dissatisfied with the situation, Aunt Su said, "Qingxiu is already 6 or 7 months old. Will Lu Jiang be able to come back when the baby is born?" The wife was pregnant for 10 months, and once she gave birth, her husband was not around from the beginning to the end, which made outsiders think she was not decent. "I definitely can't come back," Feng Qingxiu said. Although she didn't know Lu Jiang's specific situation, she could tell from the usual correspondence that they had never given up training and were preparing for battle. She caught a glimpse of Lu Jiang's father feeling guilty. With a look in her eyes, Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, "Father, please don't do this. We can't delay state affairs because of family affairs." When she married Lu Jiang, she had long been mentally prepared to spend less time together and more time apart, so she had no regrets. Aunt Su also said, yes, Qingxiu is right. It's noon, the children are back, Qingxiu and I are going to make dumplings. It's the 30th this year, we have the conditions, and we must have a lively meal, meat dumplings. While boiling water, Aunt Su asked Feng Qingxiu, "Does your father-in-law often mention Lu Jiang?" Feng Qingxiu thought for a while and nodded in agreement. Father Lu would mention Lu Jiang every now and then, sometimes asking if they had communicated with each other, sometimes saying that the family would not be complete without Lu Jiang, etc. Old cunning, Aunt Su cursed with a smile. Seeing that the water in the pot was boiling, she was busy putting down the dumplings and stopped talking. A meal of dumplings at noon and a New Year's Eve dinner in the evening, both meat and vegetables, is really a life she has never dared to imagine in these years. Early the next morning, Aunt Su stuffed a small box for Feng Qingxiu. "Aunt." Seeing the doubt on Feng Qingxiu's face, Aunt Su smiled faintly, "Our family has the only little gold left. Fortunately, when I gave it to Lao Zhong didn't want it, so I hid it in the mezzanine of the box, otherwise I would have buried it. There is no way to take it out underground. Fortunately, the person who monitored our packing was careless and did not check our luggage. Set off to go home, I will update the next update in the afternoon." I took a shower, cut my hair, and washed my clothes one by one at noon. I have been busy until now. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 332. The Wangla Brigade, where everyone has meat to eat, is celebrating the new year, but Lu Zhang, who has just recovered from surgery, is getting ready to go. Weapons, food, grass, and personnel are all in place. After receiving news that there are signs of frequent activities of illegal overseas armed elements on the border, they must rush to the front line as soon as possible, step into the smoke of gunfire, and defend their country's territory from any infringement. This time, Lu Zhang personally commanded his regiment and his soldiers, which was a heavy responsibility. When Zhao Yang came to see him, he was writing a letter to my younger siblings. Yes. When we get to the battlefield, we won't have the chance to write letters and send them home. I have to take advantage of this time to write more letters and ask someone to send them home in batches. Lu Zhang didn't raise his head. The only thing he said before going to the battlefield was what I had the opportunity to write was probably a suicide note. Zhao Yang was stunned and looked at the sealed envelope on the table. It's a thick stack, with 8 if not 10 letters. Have you written the letter in advance? Zhao Yang asked. In the letter, Lu Zhang told how much he missed his wife, family, and children. After the handwriting dried, he quickly folded it and put it in an envelope and sealed it with glue. Zhao Yang discovered that the date of sending the letter on the envelope was more than half a year later. Qingxiu is pregnant now. I can't tell her before departure. When the child was born, I was fighting the enemy on the battlefield. Lu Zhang wiped his face, unable to wipe away the guilt on his face. She is pregnant. I can't stay with her when she's working hard, and I can't share the housework with her. Now, I can't let her be worried because I'm on the battlefield. He had just escaped from the last battlefield with a narrow escape. It was impossible for her not to be worried when he entered the battlefield again. On the battlefield, life or death matters. He was willing to sacrifice his life for the sake of the country, just so that the countrymen and family behind him could live in peace. Zhao Yang patted him on the shoulder. You are right, you are right. Pregnant women giving birth are always struggling on the line of life and death. If they are in a good mood and are well nourished, everything will go smoothly naturally. Otherwise, it will be unpredictable. Lu Zhang said while sorting out the letters, I have to find someone who can stay in the army for a long time and be trustworthy. If you send 1 letter a month, 12 letters can last for a year. Just ask Lao Gang, he has been sticking to the rear. After Zhao Yang finished speaking, he then said curiously, didn't you say that your sister-in-law is pregnant? You don't know whether the child you will have in the future will be a boy or a girl. The letter written in advance will tell you. Won't you show off your flaws? Lu Zhang smiled and said, of course not. Zhao Yang didn't believe it. Do you already know the man and woman? I'm not a god. How could I know whether my wife is pregnant with a son or a daughter thousands of miles away? Lu Zhang patted the letter. Regardless of the gender, I will be collectively referred to as baby in the letter. Just pay more attention between the lines. What I'm most worried about now is that after receiving Qingxiu's letter, I couldn't reply to the content of her letter. Then what are you going to do? It is indeed a problem. Lu Zhang loosened his frown and said smartly, ask Lao Gen to send me a letter 2 days in advance. Send it before I receive the letter. This way you can hide it for a while. The letter fully expressed his longing and did not mention family matters. It was easy to pass the test, because due to the Army's confidentiality regulations, he rarely mentioned his life in the Army, and he only said that she could make the decision on matters at home. Old Gang patted his chest and said, don't worry, Commander Lu, I will definitely send a letter as you asked. I will also collect some tickets and letters that we don't need with my comrades and send them back together, and let my sister-in-law get some nutritional supplements for them. Children eat. After everything was arranged, Lu Jiang led his troops without hesitation and never looked back after finishing the update. We set off, haha. I originally planned to take the bus directly at the door after finishing the meal, but later I felt that the meal was too expensive, and it would cost a lot to feed 3 adults and 1 child, so we might not be able to eat enough, so we ordered a braised pork rice takeout. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 333. Feng Qingxiu didn't notice anything strange when she received one letter. She felt something was wrong when she received the second letter. When she received the third letter, she knew that Lu Jiang was either on a mission or on the battlefield. The guy certainly didn't realize how powerful his pen was. The paper he used to write to himself was never letter paper, but torn directly from his usual notebook. Sometimes it was white paper, sometimes it was straw paper. It was never the same anyway. What did he have in his hand when he wrote the letter? I started writing directly in the notebook, using different pens. Now the 3 letters in a row are on the same paper, the same pen and ink, and the second letter is clearly marked by the handwriting left on the paper separated by the first letter. On the third letter, the mark of the second letter is obvious, while the mark of the first letter is slightly lighter. Since it is a commonly used notebook, it is impossible to write letters according to the order of the pages. It is impossible for the notebook not to be used for other purposes in the half-month between 2 letters, and the contents are the same. Also, you can tell at a glance that the tickets and things that were sent were not prepared by him. The scattered tickets were obviously made up one by you and me. Feng Qingxiu didn't see anything about this, because Lu Jiang often did this before, asking his comrades for things they didn't need when they didn't have supplies. Ticket. She could tell from the things that Lu Jiang knew that he had space. The space was filled with all kinds of scarce materials, which could provide enough nutrition. The 2 of them once said that it was enough to deceive others, but what they sent now was too honest, right? Luncheon meat, canned food, all kinds of things, obviously they are all made up by you and me, but the letter did not mention these. Based on these doubts, it can be determined that Lu Jiang is no longer in the army. Judging from the type of soldiers in his unit, he should have been on the battlefield. Her husband will go to war again after he recovers. As a wife, it would be a lie to say that she is not worried. However, she knew that this was Lu Jiang's responsibility. In addition to supporting him, she also took care of his family so that he could concentrate on fighting and win a glimmer of hope for himself while killing the enemy. After finding out, Feng Qingxiu pretended not to know and still sent him letters every month, recording all the trivial matters at home. She was responsible for all correspondence with Lu Jiang. Lu's father did not interfere and only asked a few questions when he mentioned Lu Jiang. Feng Qingxiu was able to fool him with just a few words. As the weather got warmer, she prepared her maternity supplies in advance as her due date was in May. The children's clothes, quilts, diapers, and socks were made of new cotton cloth and new cotton. There were 2 thin quilts and 1 thick quilt. The clothes and socks were made from my own autumn clothes. They were soft and close to the body and had no threads. Outside, even if the diapers are torn from people's old clothes, they are still made of soft cotton and autumn clothing materials. The inner and outer materials of the quilt are washed, boiled in boiling water and dried in the sun before sewing. The clothes, diapers and socks are washed, boiled in boiling water after being made, and then put in separate suitcases after drying. In addition to preparing special towels and bathtubs for the baby, Feng Qingxiu prepared many things for herself, including underwear, pajamas, cotton slippers, cotton socks, towels, hats, gauze, hand-washing soap, sanitary belts and a roll worth 50 cents each. Toilet paper, etc. This is currently the best toilet paper among supply and marketing cooperatives, pink. As the due date approaches, she no longer works, but continues to deliver babies. My aunt is a barefoot doctor, so there are many deaths during the delivery process. Mothers and babies. My little sister was born because the umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck and she almost didn't survive. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 334. In the 4 months since the end of the year, Feng Qingxiu has welcomed more than 100 new lives from several nearby production teams with her hands. She has also encountered difficulties, big and small. Some had no heartbeat in the womb before they were born. Some umbilical cords were wrapped around the neck and could not be rescued, some fetal positions were incorrect, the mother had difficulty in labor, and some women had severe bleeding, which made her anxious every time. Although the family members of the baby and the mother did not complain at all. They all knew that childbirth was risky, but Feng Qingxiu felt very sad when she saw her life disappear before her eyes. She felt uncomfortable about the situation caused by the lack of medical treatment and backward medicine. But everyone respects and admires her very much, because since she delivered babies, the mortality rate of mothers and babies has been greatly reduced. After nearly 200 deliveries, except for the baby girl who was strangled by her elders afterwards, Feng Qingxiu only lost 3 mothers and 6 babies. The mothers all died of massive hemorrhage, which could not be stopped at all. Qingxiu felt it was inappropriate and suggested that they send the mother to the hospital to wait for delivery. They did not agree, and they would naturally bear the consequences. To them, this is no less than a magical method. After all, the previous Wenpo delivered nearly half of the babies. Moreover, Feng Qingxiu can also cure various bruises, colds and fevers. There was also someone who had been married for many years and had no children. She prescribed some traditional Chinese medicine, but she got pregnant before finishing the medicine, which made the whole family happy. This situation led to the fact that many of the children delivered by Feng Qingxiu personally were named Ifeng, Jingfeng, Ixiu, Jingxiu, Xiaoxiu, Xiaoqing, etc. Regardless of whether they were boys or girls, there were many with the same name. When she learned that Feng Qingxiu was about to give birth, people with better conditions gave her eggs that they had saved, 3 to 5. Each family didn't give much, but the savings were really quite a lot. Some even caught a hen. Chicken. Because they all knew that the Lu family raised a group of chickens in spring, but they were too small and could neither eat nor lay eggs. Feng Qingxiu asked Guancheng and Lu Tianjun to remember them one by one so that they could repay this favor in the future. During the lean years, the supply in the city was very tight, and even if she had a ticket, she might not be able to buy eggs for Zhang Yuejin. I know, Auntie, I've memorized everything. I've memorized a whole book. After listening to Guancheng's words, Feng Qingxiu smiled and nodded. After a while, she suddenly said, Aiken, before you take your brother to school, boil 2 pots of hot water for me. I will use it later. Guancheng nodded and went to boil water with Lu Tianjun. After the beginning of spring, Feng Qingyun, Lu Tianzi, and Guan Yu were all sent to school, leaving the underage Song Gang at home. The middle school in the commune could no longer be opened. The new junior high school was opened in Wanglu Brigade. Students from all over the country came here to attend school. Lu Tianjun also came back. Guancheng, who skipped a grade to junior high school, was still 1 grade below him, but he was right at home. Go to school. As Lu Tianjun and Guancheng walked on the road, the more they thought about it, the more something was wrong. Tianjun, Aiken, why are you heating hot water? The two asked each other in unison, then were stunned for a moment. Guancheng said flatly, Tianjun, I'm not worried. You take them to school first, and I'll go home. Okay, I saw my aunt and uncle and asked them to come to our house. When Guancheng arrived home, Miao Fengqin and Wang Fengqiao walked in, and Aunt Su also came back. Sure enough, she saw Feng Qingxiu enduring the pain of labor, scooping hot water into the toilet and preparing to carry it into the house. Song Gang saw when they arrived, they immediately shouted, "It hurts, it hurts." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 335. Smelly girl, why didn't you tell me you were going to give birth? Wang Fengqiao cursed her niece and quickly helped her into the house with Miao Fengqin. Aunt Su brought the hot water into the house. Because they have all given birth, Wang Fengqiao and Miao Fengqin have delivered babies for their own daughters-in-law, so they have certain experience. Feng Qingxiu breathed a sigh of relief and forced a smile. It just started to hurt, and the birth canal probably hasn't been opened yet. I had planned to ask Gangza to find you and come back to help, but you guys came here. She won't play with her own life. After more than half a year of practice, she has the skills and experience to deliver babies, but delivering her own baby? Never experienced it? Wang Fengqiao rolled her eyes at her. Lie down quickly. I'll finish cooking the noodles and beat 2 eggs for you. You'll have the energy to cook later. His sister-in-law, go quickly, I'll watch Xiaoxiu here, Miao Fengqin said. Feng Qingxiu handed her the key to the cupboard and reminded her, Guancheng knows where the noodles and eggs are. Auntie, don't cook plain noodles for me. I want to eat scallion noodles with poached eggs. How long has it been since you are still so picky? Having said that, Wang Fengqiao still opened the cupboard with Guancheng's help. The cupboard was full of food. Even though Wang Fengqiao knew that her niece was living a good life, she was also shocked by the situation in the cupboard. Needless to say, all kinds of whole grains and noodles were available in every house, which surprised her. There are 3 baskets full of eggs under the cupboard, as well as lard, brown sugar, white noodles, dried noodles, red dates, longans, millet, and other nutritious foods. They are really well prepared. Guancheng explained, many of them were sent by my uncle from the army, and some were sent by his comrades. Not bad. Wang Fengqiao took out a handful of noodles and 4 eggs, and made a large bowl of lard and scallion noodles according to Feng Qingxiu's request. The white and tender poached eggs lay under the noodles and brought them into the room. Only when you are full can you have the strength to have a baby. With this belief, Feng Qingxiu ate all the noodles and eggs, and also finished the soup. Everything Auntie used to deliver the baby is in the medicine box, Guancheng shouted outside the door. Feng Qingxiu was in labor, and he had no intention of going to school. While heating hot water in the kitchen for later use, he asked Gangza to find Lu's father. Lu's father didn't come after so long. Maybe Lu Tianjun didn't meet him on the way. Although Father Lu cannot enter the delivery room, he should wait at home for his only daughter-in-law to give birth. How can work points be as important as his own family? Before Gangza even went out, Father Lu rushed over sweating profusely. Akin, is your aunt about to give birth? Father Lu heard that Miao Fengqin and Wang Fengqiao went to his home, and even Aunt Su went there, so he knew that his daughter-in-law must be giving birth. Guancheng nodded, yes, Grandpa, it will be good if you come back. Father Lu was worried and happy at the same time, wandering around in the kitchen, which made Guancheng feel dizzy. Grandpa, should we make some millet porridge? I heard my aunt say before that it is best to drink some brown sugar millet porridge after giving birth. Stay, stay. You have studied medicine with your aunt, and we will do whatever you say is good for us to eat. Father Lu hurriedly squatted in front of the stove to watch the fire. Guancheng scooped up millet, poured it into a casserole, and placed it next to the stove. Cook in a separate pot cavity over low heat. The pot cavity was built after the new year, in preparation for Feng Qingxiu's delivery. Before the pot of porridge was cooked, I saw Aunt Su walking quickly. Hurry up and get some hot water for me, Qingxiu is about to get pregnant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 336. The birth canal opened quickly and the birth went smoothly. Within an hour after Ansu brought the hot water into the room, Father Lu and Guancheng heard them shout, "It's happening! It's happening!" What followed was the cry of a baby. Although it was not very loud, it was very exciting. Father Lu was overjoyed. He jumped out of the kitchen and stood at the door and asked, "Is everything going well? How is Xiaoxiu? How is your mental state? How is your body? How are your children? Are they all okay?" I was so excited that I didn't know where to put my hands. I heard that he first asked about Feng Qingxiu's condition, and then asked about the child. Unlike some people who just asked if it was a boy or a girl, not to mention Wang Fengqiao who was dealing with Feng Qingxiu's postpartum problems, and even Miao Fengqin. Feeling very satisfied, she laughed loudly while bathing the child. "Everything went well, everything went well. Xiaoxiu is fine, and the baby is fine too, big fat boy. Mother and child are safe. But I am fat, and it feels heavy in my hands." After taking a bath, she put on small clothes, wrapped in a diaper and a red floral swaddling clothes, and tied a red cloth belt. Miao Fengqin put the child on the prepared scale, and the scale beam suddenly tilted up. 7 pounds and 8 taels. Miao Fengqin was surprised when she saw the scale. She had weighed the swaddling clothes, and diapers before, a total of 6 taels. 7 pounds and 2 taels. What a concept! In this era of lack of food and clothing, a kid weighing 5 pounds is considered fat, but this kid actually weighs 7 pounds. Wang Fengqiao blurted out, "What a good guy. You take good care of Qingxiu." Ansu carried out the toilet that contained the placenta, blood, water and other filthy things. When she saw Father Lu who was stroking his hands and laughing in the courtyard, she said, "Congratulations, congratulations, the fat boy weighs 7 pounds and 2 ounces. He's only 7 pounds and 2 ounces. Father Lu was so happy that he couldn't see his eyes. "We are happy together, we are happy together." Seeing that his words were incoherent, Ansu couldn't help but smile, hurriedly disposed of the dirty things, and brought hot water into the house. During the birth process, Feng Qingxiu was sweating profusely, her clothes were soaked with sweat, and the old mattress underneath was soaked with blood. She needed to change everything, put on dry pajamas, and put on the thin mattress that had been prepared long ago. Wang Fengqiao wrapped her head, put on socks, and let her lie on the bed, with the child on the pillow. Looking sideways at her infant son who had fallen asleep after crying, Feng Qingxiu's heart was filled with loving tenderness at the sight of the new life, as if the pain of the previous 10 months of pregnancy was all worth it. The child, her precious child. In her past life and this life, her and Lu Jiang's first child had all their expectations placed on it before it was born. Miao Fengqin, Wang Fengqiao and Ansu were all gathered around the bed, talking to each other. "Shui, look at your son, his hair is thick and black, he is red and chubby, and his arms are like lotus root joints. After a while, he will become white and fat, and he will be dead," Wang Fengqiao said. Miao Fengqin nodded in agreement. "Shui, you are really good at raising things." In the final analysis, both adults and children are silent. We must remember Lu Jiang's contribution. After listening to Ansu's words, Miao Fengqin and Wang Fengqin nodded in succession. But no, who would have thought that the skinny little girl who could be blown away by a gust of wind could lead a good life today? At this time, Guancheng's voice sounded outside the door, "Grandma, the millet porridge is ready, serve it to my aunt." Ansu quickly picked it up and carried it to the bed. Millet porridge mixed with brown sugar, a big bowl full, without any moisture. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 337. At the same time, Lu Zhang led his troops to exterminate a group of foreign militants who intended to occupy national territory. After a brutal encirclement and suppression, our side sacrificed 13 people, killed more than 100 of the opponent's people, dismantled an armed stronghold of the opponent, captured the opponent's leader alive, and seized a large amount of materials to use as our own supplies. After dealing with the aftermath of his sacrificed comrades, the lean and dark Lu Zhang was able to take a breath. No one will be in a good mood if they bury their comrades with their own hands. No ashes were taken home, all were buried on the spot, within the border. In compliance with their last wishes, they were allowed to rest here forever and guard the country's territory forever. After taking off the hat, Lu Zhang did not continue to wear it. His face was so dark that it was impossible to see his true face. He was shirtless, with a vaguely bloody bandage wrapped around his left shoulder. He had one leg bent and a piece of blood in his mouth. Genko sat quietly in front of the tent, listening to the training slogans in the camp and looking at his hometown in the distance. "What? Lao Lu, are you homesick?" A comrade sat next to him and handed him an enamel jar of water. Although there was alcohol among the seized materials, they did not dare to drink it. Drinking would cause trouble. They had heavy responsibilities and did not dare to take risks. Lu Zhang turned around and saw Zhao Anbang, half of his body covered with bandages. He took a sip of water from the enamel jar and replied, "I'm not homesick. We have heavy responsibilities and don't have time to miss home. I miss my family people. Counting the days, my wife should give birth. I don't know if the mother and baby are safe, and I don't know if the baby is a boy or a girl." The level of medical care in the countryside was low. Even if his wife studied medical skills, he was still worried because the doctors did not treat themselves. His only hope was that Wu Zheng could come in handy and prevent his wife from being in danger. Zhao Anbang smiled brightly, "Aren't we fighting on the front line just to ensure the safety of our families? I believe that under our protection, our families will be safe. I have to remind you, you promised me that you will not care about the lives of your siblings. Whether it's a boy or a girl, you have to treat me as a godson or a daughter. This child is half as good as me." You," Lu Zhang nudged him with his elbow, "I only agreed to it when you were about to die on the battlefield. Now you are good. In the future, you can marry a wife and have children. Don't worry about my children." Zhao Anbang looked up at the sky, "I will never have children in this life." There was no emotion on his dark, weathered face. Lu Zhang was stunned and immediately understood what he meant. He stretched out his uninjured hand and patted his shoulder. A large number of his comrades who came off the battlefield had lost their fertility, but what could they do? Okay, can I give you half of my child? When we get old, if he doesn't support you, I'll spank him." Zhao Anbang's achievements were astonishing to Lu Jiang's ears. He was born in an old revolutionary family. He was a brave young man and survived a narrow escape from death. He had outstanding achievements. However, in recent years, he had been frustrated because of his father. Before setting off, he was transferred from the northwest. To become his deputy in his own army is actually wronging him. Zhao Anbang chuckled, "Can't we agree earlier? Do you think it's a boy or a girl? If it's a son, take him to target practice in the future. If it's a daughter, buy her beautiful clothes, hairpins, and dolls. I don't know about sons and daughters. No matter who you look like when you are born, it will be a disaster if your daughter looks like you. Your appearance and aura can scare a child to tears. Also, if you spank him, be careful that your siblings won't spare you. They are your siblings after birth, so you don't. You deserve to beat him." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 338. Lu Zhang thought for a while and said righteously, then I have to show my father's dignity and I can't let the brat climb on my head. Zhao Anbang gave him a big eye roll. When you see the child, you will know that all dignity will be thrown away. The child is hope and the backbone of our country's future. You can't wait for him to have fun in front of you every day. When you can't accompany him, you already feel guilty. How can you be so cold-faced to him? If you don't believe me, let's make a bet. What bet? I bet you can't bear to beat and scold your child. Lu Zhang coughed twice. Boring, I won't bet with you. Gambling is strictly prohibited in our army. Zhao Anbang sneered, don't you dare? Because you now know that you can't do anything to your child. It's no longer the time for a filial son to emerge from under the stick. Lu Zhang looked at the sky and said nothing. That's right, he couldn't bear it. How could he be willing to beat and scold the child he had been looking forward to since he learned that his wife was pregnant? As a soldier, he was worthy of the country and the people, but he was sorry to his wife and family. When they needed him, he could not appear in front of them. If he comes off the battlefield alive after this war ends and has a chance to see his child, he will definitely hug him and kiss him. Zhao Anbang touched his injured arm, and while Lu Zhang gasped in pain, he smiled and said, I just realized that we are actually fellow villagers. Fellow, you went back home last year. How was the situation there? How many years have you not been back? Lu Zhang asked. I can't remember clearly. I don't know if it was 5 years or 3 years. Anyway, I have been back home 3 times since I joined the army. In the past 2 years, I heard that something happened to my old man. Now I don't know where he will be transferred to. Zhao Anbang lamented incessantly. You haven't communicated with your family by letter. Zhao Anbang shook his head. I don't know if it was intercepted or what happened. I haven't received a letter from my family in the past few years. The letters I sent have also been lost in the sea. I don't know if my family has changed their address and lost news. In recent years, I was transferred back and forth over the years, and it was only when I came here that I became stable, but now on the battlefield, life and death are uncertain, and I can't contact my family. Same Lu Jiangdao, in order to be able to concentrate on fighting, we can't contact our families. Live well, live hard, and communicate with our families again when we return to the army. Zhao Anbang nodded. Lao Lu, we have agreed that if I am unlucky, you have to be responsible for delivering my relics to my family, and you have to let your children call me Godfather. I have already written it. I wrote a suicide note and put it with my clothes. My name is marked on the clothes. You will definitely not mistake it when the time comes. Lu Zhang hit him on the shoulder. Don't be so pessimistic, Lao Zhao, you are very skilled and have rich experience. Let's help each other and fight for that glimmer of hope together. Try to make our suicide note invalid. As I said, we are fellow villagers. After the war, I still hope that we can go back to our hometown together to see my child. You have to let him see his godfather, right? What should I do if I bump into someone on the street but don't recognize them? Tell me about the situation in our hometown first. I really miss the mountains and rivers of our hometown. Good. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 339. Lu Zhang did not have time to tell Zhao Anbang about the recent situation in his hometown because he discovered an enemy attack. The enemy sneak attacked the sentry position below with the intention of attacking from above. Even though they were injured, they still participated in the intense battle, guarding the top and supporting the bottom. Anbang, I'll leave the top to you, with defense as the main task and attack as the auxiliary. You can command them. I'll take care of the few bastards below and immediately bring people back to support you, and surprise them from behind. Lu Zhang carried his gun, hid behind the ridge, and fired several shots at the small group of enemies who came to attack them. Gunshots rang out, and flesh and blood flew everywhere under the afterglow of the setting sun. Several gunshots were fired and several people fell. After a series of gunshots, all the enemy soldiers were shot and lay motionless on the ground. Lu Zhang did not take it lightly. Instead, he grabbed the recruit next to him who stood up with excitement when he saw the enemy soldier fell and wanted to see the man who had been shot. He said sternly, "Get down." The recruit suddenly became alert and fell down suddenly. 2 bullets passed over his head one after another, and he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. Lu Zhang fired several shots in a row, sieving the enemies who pretended to be dead and then fired. He also shot the other enemies who had fallen down. When fighting on the front line, remember not to be negligent in the slightest to prevent the enemy. Faking death will cost you your own life because of your negligence. The life of every soldier in our country is very precious. The 17 or 18-year-old recruit nodded with red eyes, "Yes, thank you, Commander." Lu Zhang then asked several people to search him, let him die before he died, and then seized the trophies. The other party's clothes, weapons, and everything they carry are all there. Our own side is short of supplies and relies entirely on loot to support the coming battle. Then, Lu Zhang left some of his men to protect the sentry position below, and he led the others back to the top. As expected, the battle was fierce. Fortunately, he had made arrangements in advance, so there was no rush, so he led his men to attack the opponent from the rear. As night falls, the equipment is inferior to that of the opponent, making the fight even more difficult. After the ammunition was used up, bayonets were used, and it was all up to everyone to fight hand-to-hand under the cover of night. After a night of fighting, 153 enemies were killed and 70 were seriously injured at the expense of 24 people. Seeing a total of 48 of the surviving wounded being carried off the blockade and rushed to the field hospital, some had broken arms, some had broken legs, some were blind, and some had their faces disfigured, Lu Zhang gasped for breath. He breathed and wiped his face hard, his hands were covered with blood, and he couldn't tell whether it was the blood of the enemy or the blood of his own people. Zhao Anbang was stabbed in the leg. Fortunately, no bones were injured, but blood continued to flow out. Lu Zhang took out the Yunnan Biao prepared by Feng Qingxiu for him from his pocket. One was a traditional Chinese medicine pill in a bottle, and the other was a capsule. He carried it with him every time he went to the battlefield. When he was injured, he took the capsule. The meatballs were used to save people, but now there are very few left. Feng Qingxiu had warned her in advance because there were no Yunnan Biao capsules on the market. Lu Zhang tore off a strip of cloth to tie the artery in Zhao Anbang's leg, then poured the pills out and stuffed them into his mouth. "If you trust me, I'll take it. Yunnan Biao's hemostatic function is particularly powerful." Zhao Anbang opened his mouth and swallowed it without asking. Lu Zhang waved his hand to ask people to carry Zhao Anbang down, and distributed the remaining pills to the soldiers who were seriously injured after being shot. There has always been a shortage of medical care and medicine in battlefields. Many soldiers were injured and lost their lives due to lack of medicine. He did not die on the front line, but died due to lack of supplies. I want to cry while looking up the information. The coding is a bit slow. There is still one more update. Hey. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 340. The enemy forces have established dozens of invasion strongholds on our territory, and the two countries continue to be at odds. Although there was no formal war, due to the continuous encroachment of the other side and after clearing out each other's militants several times, the two countries failed to reach peace talks. After receiving the order from above, the country entered a state of war readiness, increased vigilance, and strengthened border defense. Lu Zhang subsequently entered the border defense force. Under the command of Commander Ye, deployed troops and made intense pre-war preparations. The people at the bottom cannot get any information about these major national events, and they have to run around for food and clothing every day. In their eyes, having enough food and clothing is a big deal. While Feng Qingxiu was still in confinement, the Wanglu Brigade began to collect them. This year's crops are growing very well. The heavy ears of wheat are bending the stalks. Under the instructions of the captains of each production team, one man per ridge. Those with sickles in their hands use sickles to cut the wheat, and those without sickles use their hands to uproot the wheat. When you are busy, keep a smile on your face. According to Wang Zhenquo's estimation, with the harvest of this season's grain, the country's food shortage will be greatly alleviated. During the summer harvest, adults and children go to work together, and the school has a half-month holiday for this purpose. Their slogan is to collect all the wheat before it rains on a cloudy day. The wheat is already ripe and will sprout if left in the ground in the rain. No one wants to eat flour ground from germinated wheat. Not to mention the taste. Even the dry sweet potato noodles are unpalatable. Regarding food rations, many women who had given birth for more than a month or within a few days went to the fields. Some carried their babies, who were just 1 month old, on their backs, and the children's faces were red from the sun. Others left the children at home with their older children watching over them. Feng Qingxiu didn't go out or go to the ground, she stayed at home quietly. My son was born on the 8th day of April, the 11th day of May according to the Gregorian calendar. He is now 20 days old. Looking at her son after the red wrinkles faded away, Feng Qingxiu's face was full of tenderness and love, and her eyes were so soft that they almost watered. The baby is growing very well. The weather is hot, and the white and tender arms and legs are exposed. They are like lotus root joints, round and fleshy. This may be the reason why she has been secretly eating birds' nests and fruits during pregnancy. The baby's skin is very white. As white as snow, with deep double eyelids, big, watery eyes with a hint of baby blue, a high nose bridge, and graceful lips. He looks like a handsome man at first glance. "Aunt, what's your brother's name?" Song Gang lay on the bedside and looked at the sleeping baby, his eyes burning. After the baby was born, young Feng Qingyun and Gangzi suddenly looked like aunt and brother. Feng Qingyun, who was only 7 years old, followed the older children to the fields to pluck wheat and glean it, while Gangzi stayed at home with Feng Cheng. Snow looks after her younger brother. Feng Qingxiu was not delicate enough to lie motionless on the bed. She often got out of bed to move her hands and feet, do whatever she could, and hold her son in the sun. Due to the weather problem, there was no cold wind or cool air, so she was very careful not to touch the cold water. Fortunately, Aunt Zhao and her aunt took turns taking care of her, and they were in good order inside and outside. After hearing Song Gang's words, Feng Qingxiu said, "If you don't have a big name, let's call you Zibao." She couldn't wait for Lu Zhang to name the child, so she asked Lu's father to give the child a big name and she gave the child a nickname. After thinking about it for more than half a month, I finally made the decision today. When Lu Tianjun came back and heard it, he put his hands on his hands and said with a smile, "Zibao. What a good name. My younger brother is white, tender, and cute. Isn't he our family's precious egg? Zibao, let's call him Zibao."